I know he doesn't look much like Nick. Doesn't have
Hmm.
the first baseball cap. That's how I can tell.
Yeah,
So
we're so much like twins.
it's
Yes.
just identical. So,
Yeah.
Brian, great to have you on board tonight. As I was just
Mhm.
telling you, I had this wonderful set of questions for Nick for tonight. And
Mhm.
fortunately, you were available because
Mhm.
some of the questions are right up your alley. So
Mhm.
that would be almost every question, wouldn't it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, here's where I want to start. Elon is at it again. The guy just doesn't know when to stop. He's building the best rockets and the best brain implants and the best tunneling systems. And then he builds this amazing computer up in Memphis or
Hmm.
over in Memphis or however you want to think about it. But anyway, in Memphis, the largest, fastest, hardest working supercomputer in the world, announcing today that 2 months from now they're going to double it. They're going
Right.
to buy another set of 100 of these.
100,000.
100,000, yes, 100,000 of these chips,
Hmm.
and then also going to raise money, which will put a valuation on the company, the XAI part of the company, at 40 billion.
Hmm.
Talk to me about this. What in the world is this? Is this a my computer's bigger than your computer statement to XAI? I mean to
If you
ChatGPT.
let me share, I have a little table
Oh,
actually
oh,
for
okay.
that.
Let me. Wow, look at you. I
Hmm.
have to find my share first. Here we go. Okay, now you can share.
Okay, let me
And folks, he didn't even know that this was going to be my first question.
yeah. Okay, give me a second. Give me a
Okay, we'll
second.
give you all the time you need, Brian.
So I have just as I talk to the as I go find this thing. Um, I have analyzed the all the large language models in terms of like all the different companies that are um, putting stuff together. So you have OpenAI, you have Meta, and this is something that I discussed also with you about the
Yes,
19-day installation time,
right.
right? So I have a detailed table about this thing. So Grok 3 coming up is using the 100,000 chips that have already been installed,
Okay.
right? So that's like line 5 on this thing,
Okay. Yeah,
right?
yeah, got it.
So the chips were delivered. The model we're making talking about the second column, Grok 3, company XAI, delivered. The chips have been delivered, installed. So they
Yep.
already installed them. They train them. The training should be done after 50 days,
Okay.
right? December 24th is when, 2024 is when they should be done the training, right?
All right.
Maybe it gets done in November, right?
Mhm.
And then they will do post-training and testing and they release it. The Grok 2, they did post-training testing for maybe 2 months. So Elon has talked about getting this whole thing out December 24, which would suggest that it's already trained maybe now,
Right.
and then they have 2 months to get it out by Christmas time or something like that,
I
right?
got you.
But
Okay.
Elon, you know, we don't know exactly on that kind of like to the day what's going on there. So then they would have 33,000 chip years worth of training, which I think this figure I had for GPT-5 of 16,438, that came from Dr. Alan Thompson,
Okay.
who's an AI expert. He has a little table. I pulled some of the ones already in the past from that. But the way I calculated, if the Grok 2 20K 20,000 H100s for 6,500 chip years. If I have 2.5 times many chips, 50K for OpenAI, and 2.5 times many training days, 120 days, that should actually be 30,000 chip years.
I see.
So GPT-5 and GPT-3 should have the same training horsepower, right?
Hmm.
GPT-5 and GPT-4, they took 9 months of post-training to get out, which is the last column. When did they come out, right?
I
So
got
now
you.
we see that um, we're expecting GPT-5 out January 2025, because they were done training April 2024,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, Meta and XAI, they are doing this 2, 3 month thing. They're not taking so long to
Mhm.
do whatever they're doing post-training and testing. Some of the post-training testing they can do is to make sure that the model, um, you know, is diverse and other stuff like that. So if you're not doing that, then you don't take that extra time to make sure that happens,
Okay.
right? But there could be some other post-training things where they're trying to like fine-tune and make it behave, some reinforcement based on human testing. Anyway, so what you talked about with the 200,000 H100, H200, that's Grok 4.
Right.
So that's 2 lines down, Grok 4, XAI. So the chips get delivered November 2024. If Elon's saying it takes 2 months to
Right.
do that, then maybe the chip delivery is December 2024, right?
Right.
So once delivered, 1 month later, 19 days, 30 days,
Right.
roughly, they're installed because that's how fast XAI does it, right? To get them installed quickly. So 1 month after. So if they take another month to get the chips, then it's, January they have them installed. The I'm anticipating they do 100 days of training,
Okay.
not 50 days of training.
Okay.
The reason being you have double your compute power, right? You
Mm.
went from 100,000 to 200,000.
Mhm.
If I only train for 15 days again, then I'm only going to be at 66,000 chip years. I want to have more of a jump. I want to go to 130,000 chip years, which
Okay.
means 100 days worth of training,
I see.
which is less training than the in, OpenAI did for GPT-5. GPT-5, they did 120 days of training,
I see.
right? But that choice was because GPT-5, they're way ahead. They're doing that training back in like December of last year through to March of this year,
Hmm.
right? They were like way in
Right.
the lead.
Right.
And so they're only doing 50,000 chips. So they think, hey, we got time. We can do 120. We're not rushing. Meta and XAI are rushing 50 days training, right? But now XAI has caught up. So now they say, I'm going to do 100 days because I am installing these chips faster. Meta won't have their 100,000 H100s done till November,
I
right?
see.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's December, right? Because
Okay.
they're taking that 1 year that Jensen Wang said these guys are taking, right?
Right. Right.
So anyway, so the 200,000 chips, I expect that to be out May of 2025.
Right.
So the Grok 3 should be out January, February, maybe as early as December. Elon's trying to get it in December.
Hmm.
But I think January, February is probably more realistic
All right.
for Grok 3, right?
So then they come out
Um,
in May, and the next one, you don't have the next update for anybody until September. So would
right.
would they be at this point in May? Would you consider them to be ahead in terms of their capacity capabilities at that point?
Right. So actually, I'm expecting a Llama 4 to come out equal to GPT-5 and Grok 3 out in April.
Okay.
I think they're only a couple of months behind on that.
Okay.
And then Grok 4 at 132,000 would be superior to any competitor. Llama 5 might come up with 99,000 in September. Um, that would be using H100s for 150 days. Um, so it would be the best model, other than the next Grok models, until I think it'd be better than GPT-6. Actually, I think it could be equal to GPT-6 because I was propagating the error that Alan Thompson, I think, made with GPT-5. So GPT-6 could be equal to the 132,000.
I see.
But that won't be out until January 2026. Um, Unless they start changing how long they take to post process. They could say, hey, we can't keep post processing these things for 9 months. We got to start shortening stuff up.
Right.
But the reason I'm not expecting that per se is that GPT-4 didn't do that, GPT-3 didn't do that, GPT-5 doesn't seem to be doing that. So they have to, I expect that they start changing it, but then it's like, how do they change it? So they have to start shortcutting their after process work.
All right. So basically, we need to cut to the chase because we got a lot more to cover.
Sure.
So basically, you're thinking that Tesla passes everybody, a Tesla, that
XAI.
yeah, XAI passes everybody in May,
Man.
and that basically they'll continue to put in additional compute and then train that additional compute faster than anybody else can do it. Therefore, there'll be no looking back. Nobody will be able to.
Right. They'll be 10, 20 times better than anyone else. They'll have a huge lead getting wider and wider um, against everyone else, unless everyone else can start installing in um, 19 days or a month,
Right.
just like they can.
Wow. Okay. All right. So super interesting. So that is the game plan, and you knew it already. You
Yes.
already made the
I knew
chart.
it by the month. I knew it
You
by the
knew it
month.
by the month.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really wild and crazy. When you told it to me last time, it didn't have the same connection. It's kind of like reading about it in geography and going and visiting the country. The fact that they now have the order in for the next batch of chips made it more real, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you bringing that
Mhm.
and showing us how that works. Okay, so then Tesla rolls out a new standard for wiring connectors today, and it includes 48 volt architecture. It reduces the total number of connectors that are available on the market today for all the different cars and all the different styles from 200 to 6.
Mhm.
And he puts it out there as something that could become a standard for the industry so that all the other car companies can now utilize this benefit, and all the other makers of the connectors could reduce the amount of designs that they're making, therefore making it more efficient, more effective, and less expensive for everybody. Is this just a nice thing to do?
This is for superchargers? I hadn't heard this thing.
Oh, not for no, for the cars. I'm sorry, connectors for the cars, for the vehicles.
So for connectors to the
Wiring
vehicle.
in the wiring inside, the wiring inside the
So,
car,
so nothing to do with the charging. It's inside the vehicles,
inside the
a 40
vehicle.
volt architecture that will be standardized. So
To
what connectors are inside
all
the
the different connectors for power, for the wiring harnesses. Of
Mhm.
course, in the new models, in the Cybertruck and upcoming models, they've reduced the amount of those harnesses, and they've made them connect between the sections of the cars, setting up for the unboxed process.
Mhm.
But in the course of doing that, they've reduced the amount of wiring, but they've come up with these connectors that either connect just the power, or they connect just the electronics,
Communication.
or
Yeah,
they do both. So some of the connectors do both. So
I see.
with 6 connectors, they're saying that they, as well as any other car company, could reorganize their vehicles to only require 6 connectors for the entire car, making everything much more efficient and less expensive. So do you think they're
Okay.
making this into a standard just out of the kindness of their heart, or do you think they have other motives?
The becoming a standard means that the entire supply chain goes over to that. So that makes it easier and better for them to have that whole supply chain go to that model. Um, it's also part of that if they think eventually everyone's going to buy uh, FSD from them,
Right,
right? Because they're the one who solves it, right?
right,
So then they'll be supplying everyone with robotaxi software capability, which also means the um, um, the software system, all the OS operating system that's running the car, right?
right,
Because if I give you FSD, it's running on Tesla OS. So then Tesla OS runs on their electronic system. So
right.
then if you're saying you're going to license, I expect you to license that from me anyway, then we should get all this other stuff standardized because
Yeah.
I'm the standard. It's just like if I was to sell you Windows back in the day,
Mhm.
you should be using Intel chips. You should be using, all the standard Ethernet stuff, right? Like,
Right.
why do things differently if everything's going to roll up to Windows? Because Windows doesn't run on, you know, whatever other non-Intel chips back in the day. It was very rare that it did. So having everything being standardized, it'd be like the Tesla inside thing.
Yeah,
So,
it's
so
super
it's
easy.
like,
Let me see.
yeah,
From my standpoint as a neophyte, I might say it makes it easier to engineer when they
yeah.
when they give Tesla the opportunity to provide them with FSD. It makes the job for the engineers at Tesla easier
Hmm.
to make it work for their vehicles.
Right, right. And because it's the better standard, like everyone should go to 48 volt, the only 48 volt to go to is theirs,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So it's like, and here's this better way to do it. We simplify everything. it's this Lego process for connecting all the wiring.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we're going to make a standard, let's make a great one.
Yeah.
And so then, and the thing is, if ultimately everyone buys their FSD, buys their OS, it's pretty much all electronics inside. The only thing you're differentiating on, your other guys, is some kind of brand thing, some kind of like seat stuff.
Sure. Sure.
There's these other things you're doing, but the basic everything about the electronics and software is Tesla's. So it's like, do it our way. You're going to do it here.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good. Thank you for that. It seemed to me it was smart for Tesla, but I didn't understand the rest of it. That makes so much sense. All right.
Mhm.
Then Rains, who we've begun to follow in the last couple of months,
Mhm.
who keeps coming out with these cool things with regard to FSD, says he believes that he has cracked the code
Mhm.
based on the claims that Elon made with regard to the 1,000 times better between January of 24 and December of 24, and then another 1,000 times better for January 25 to December of 25. And he says if you reverse engineer all that and you go back and you look at some standard information that we had, that it would be approximately June of 2025 that the car would be getting one necessary intervention per every million miles,
Mhm.
which he thinks might be the standard that Elon wants to reach before it becomes unsupervised. I
Mhm.
feel like that is a crazy number, one in every million miles. I started trying to think about my own necessary interventions. I know
Mhm.
that in my lifetime, I've fallen asleep at least 3 times behind the wheel. Fortunately,
Mhm.
each time was for a fraction of a second, or maybe
Mhm.
for a second or something, but I didn't die,
Right.
apparently. I
Mhm.
have run over a center divider one time, trying to make a left turn, completely missed it, blew the tire.
Mhm.
I can think of multiple other things like that I've done. And I'm going to guess that these necessary interventions probably have happened at the rate of about one every 6 months when I was driving at least 10,000 miles a year. So a necessary intervention every 5,000 miles would be a lot closer to my experience, not every 1 million miles.
Yeah. Well, having driven for, 40 some years, in general, 10,000 to 15,000 miles per year.
Right.
Um, so that's 500,000 miles total, maybe.
Yeah.
So I have had more incidents than that. So stuff has happened with my driving. Um, so that would, one incident per million miles is like way beyond me. But maybe I'm a bad driver. I don't know. My insurance doesn't say I'm a bad driver, but
Right.
um, so it yeah, if it's one incident every million miles, I think one in terms of the overall statistics in the United States, it's not that
Right.
much,
Right.
right? It's almost like, I think, a fatality every 700,000 miles or something. So I don't think yeah, so I think that'd be if you're going up 1,000 times, you're blowing way, 1,000 times this year, 1,000 times next year. By the end of the year, like, you're so far beyond human,
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? So if they're achieving those factors, no matter where we are now, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, or whatever, and then you get 1,000 times better, it's in a million miles, you are clearly safer.
Right.
So
And much better than Waymo because we've got the numbers from Waymo.
yeah,
So,
yeah, one incident every 20,000 miles or something. Yeah.
yeah, so therefore, June would seem to be maybe a maximum date if that's what Elon's goal is to do one
Mhm.
every million miles. But maybe we're going to be looking at a lot sooner than June, and there are certainly some who think it'll be sooner than June, but that's also roughly the timing that Elon has suggested is middle of the year.
But the main thing is it's next year,
Yes, and
right?
predictable.
Quite predictably next year. Like, even this is the fact that you're improving so fast. Like, before, people were saying, "Oh, it's gonna be years and years. It could be a decade or 2 decades away." But if you're improving at 2 to 5 times every month,
Right.
right? Which is like, okay, 5 times better once version 13 comes out, 5, 6 times better, and then version 14 or whatever these point releases, and you're getting twice as good every month. If okay, I didn't get out this month, I get out next month and I'm twice as good. It's your worst case goes from June to like August or something like that. I missed a couple of updates, so things slipped to August. It's not that much of a miss. It's like um, if you're shooting at a basketball into a net from half court, or if you're shooting an arrow into a bullseye or dart into bullseye, it's like aim small, miss small, right?
Uh-huh.
So now there's like they're gonna miss small. It's no more
Right,
huge delays. It's
right.
gonna be close.
It's
Yeah,
it's predictable.
right,
It's something that they can predict based on the experience that they've had to date. Okay.
right.
All right. China rumors are out this morning that the Juniper has been under production now for a week.
Hmm.
So we may be looking at Junipers around the first of the year in China. No rumors yet for the other factories. Have you heard anything that I haven't heard with regard
I've not
to
heard any other rumors for any of the
Juniper anywhere?
factories.
Okay, all right. But that would be kind of cool if we get the Juniper even in China by January 1st. I thought maybe they would be shooting for getting it out before the end of the year. But beginning of next year would certainly be cool.
Right. And again, it's if we're talking about, is it December, is it January, is it February?
Right.
Again, we're close.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. So I ran a poll because I kept putting this idea out there and I'm the marketing guy, okay? You might be the scientist. I'm the marketing guy. Larry might be the genius when it comes to putting out software, but I'm the marketing guy. Anyway, and as a marketing guy, I keep saying that if Elon Musk goes out there in front of Republicans night after night after night wearing his Tesla t-shirt, and is out there helping President Trump win the race, and he's doing this in a very major way in terms of time and money,
Hmm.
that Republicans across the country are going to like him better.
Yes.
They like him better, they're going to be more likely to buy his vehicles, especially since a lot of Republicans might have been negative on Tesla vehicles because they were green and because they felt forced to purchase them. So after having everybody else shoot me down, the non-marketing people,
Mm.
I decided, what the heck, I'll run a poll. Now, when you run a poll on X, you get, 20 or 50 or 70 votes or whatever. It's not something you can, take to the bank. But I feel like you get some idea.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to game it. People
Mm.
are going to more or less answer honestly. So what happened on my poll? Where it turns out that 30% are more likely. These are MAGA only. I said only vote if you're MAGA. Okay.
Mm.
30% said they would be somewhat more likely to buy a Tesla as a result, or Tesla stock as a result. 15% said it would make all the difference.
Mm.
Now, 15% making all the difference is a massive number when it
Mm.
comes to trying to get some marketing done.
Right.
So Elon may or may not do national advertising, but he is the best promoter ever,
Mm. Yeah.
if this is correct. So what do you
Right.
think?
Um, I was already thinking that yeah, people who are saying he's losing the liberal Democrat buyer or some fraction of that, I knew he'd be picking up on the other side, right? So
Okay.
I was kind of aligned with that thinking. And the other thing would be that the percentage of people who factor that in about, like who's the CEO, even outspoken CEO or something like that. I think it can only be 10%. That if you make your product sufficiently superior,
Right,
like Microsoft, Windows or Office in the day, plenty of people hated Bill Gates.
right,
Plenty of people hated
right,
Bill,
right.
right? And if they could get something else, they would have,
If it was same
right?
quality, same price, same,
Same,
same value.
same price, yeah. And then same thing for cars. Like there were plenty of I don't know, like �伊𝐞𝐽 or something like that. There's people who had strong images, and you could have a positive or negative feeling about that person. And I think there's like that for other products. So I don't. If your product is superior enough, it will overwhelm. And I think that's Elon's goal. Is the
Right,
product so superior that it overwhelms. And the other thing is that this is mainly only a US, Canada thing.
Yes, yes,
It's not going to matter in China.
right.
Because one in China they view Elon more positively. It's not going to matter in a lot of Asia. It's not going to matter in well, it can matter in some parts of Europe, but
Yep.
it's and then it's definitely not going to matter for megapacks, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
I don't think there's any MAGA in Europe at all. I mean, they're all
right.
left of center. So
Right, right. So megapacks, that kind of thing. Like when you get to those other things, then this is
it's
all not relevant.
well, yeah, especially unless it's the actual leadership that you're
Mhm.
up against.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to switch to the general economy now. I
Mhm.
have come up with a theory today.
Mhm.
I'm going to be you're going to be the first one to hear it, along with well, you'll be the first because everybody else won't hear it for at least a half an hour.
Mhm.
So I'm very interested to hear your thinking on this. I've been talking about this all week, but now I'm prepared to make my statement. And that is that the Fed may or may not cut on the 7th. I've been saying that there's a better and better chance every day that they won't cut on the 7th, that the economy's too hot, that the employment numbers are not bad enough. The risk is switched over back to a too hot of an economy, wages growing too fast, et cetera, et cetera. All the numbers this morning, same old. I mean, yes, there was less on the jolts, the numbers were down, but on the consumer confidence, they were up. So
Mhm.
everything seems to be pointing that the economy, and then you have to add in my own belief and historical evidence that after the election, no matter who wins, we're going to get a good run. The
Mhm.
economy is going to do better after the election. Better, everybody says it'll be better if it's Trump. Not even
Mhm.
the liberal economists believe that, but Kamala will do fine. Her economy will do fine for the first year after the election. That's historically how it works. So if I believe that historically and believe it in my heart also, just from my own analysis, then the economy is going to be doing fine. And if the economy is doing fine and you already have almost 5% year over year growth in wages, this is
Mhm.
not a time to be cutting the interest rates.
Mhm.
Maybe one more time, but then maybe pausing, maybe for a while, because obviously based on data they get each quarter. I mean, each month, well, each time they have to vote. So what do you think? Do you think there's a chance that this is right and that we're going to, I mean, the bonds are sitting at
Up.
4.3. They were at 4.33 this morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. So the seem that the interest rates have gone up on bonds and T-bills and stuff like that, treasuries, because of the anticipation that Trump will win,
Right.
anticipation that his economy will be good. And so then it would make sense that the Fed would say, okay, yeah, if we're going to do a quarter point cut, let's just skip it for November, do it in December, wait and see. That seems a kind of data dependent wait and see kind of play that they would do. Because they
All right.
would skip November, then they may do it
All right.
quarter
Yeah.
point or half point.
Just do one or the other, but not both, or do a quarter point cut, but maybe the commentary is, it's looking a little strong right now. We may have to pause, or it'll be meeting to meeting, but with a little bit of a hawkish,
Right,
hawkish
right.
statement.
And then the actual coin flip thing of whether you do November, December, they have some other data, right? So we
Right.
have our data, which suggests, and I'm not sure what the odds, like the implied odds of that
Right now,
based
about
on,
85%, even today, I
I-
think, or
right,
yesterday for sure, but I didn't look today.
yeah. So I don't think, yeah, lowering the odds on that, like you're suggesting, you know, it probably gets to a coin flip that depend upon what else do they see.
Right.
And then also they would be doing November 7th. So they'd be looking at the election in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
So then they would have a couple of days of reaction, market reaction after the thing. So if things are running hot, they, it goes more towards your case that they say, hey, we don't need to do anything.
Yeah, we get the jobs data this Friday. We get the ADP data Thursday, I think. PCE, I forget now which day, but we get the PCE data either Thursday or Friday, and then the ADP data, and then the jobs data on Friday. So they'll have a ton of recent information to make a decision. But anyway, Jeremy Siegel is out today. He's one of the top. He's one of the top people when it comes to guesstimating on these interest rates, and he came out this morning saying the same thing. And again, people, if you want to go back and look at my previous videos in the audience, if you're new to the channel, go back and look at previous videos. You'll see I've been saying this now for over a week that I think there's a chance that the Fed would not cut on November 7th, or if on November 7th, skipping December. So in some ways, that's good news because it means the economy is strong. We've got NASDAQ new highs today. You've got S&P and the New York Stock Exchange, both either new highs yesterday or today. I mean, so the stock market's evidencing that the economy is fine. The bond market is evidencing that the market is fine. So,
but the other thing is, a quarter point cut, no quarter point cut, it it and then how they say it. Like if they skip a quarter point cut, if they say, "Hey, don't freak out, we skipped a quarter point cut, we're just waiting," blah blah blah, the market won't necessarily totally go berserk. The fact that you already broke the seal with
yeah,
your half point cut,
right,
right? You're still in general trending towards 2% down in total, another 1.5 points, by the middle of next year.
right,
Exactly how fast you get there, if you're kind of saying, yeah, you do your dot plot, your other stuff, you're saying, okay, we're still signaling that we're going there,
right.
right? Then the fact that you had to pull off the highway and then take a break at the McDonald's to go, do something, who cares? We're still going to get there in like an hour and a half, right?
Right.
So it's I think it's the market won't freak out now that it's already kind of going that way. They'll, if they skip two, then that goes something. And if they start talking, like this is, things have gone off the rails, so like then everything, all bets are off. But if they're, yeah.
Yeah, so we have two other things that are going to be impacting interest rates coming in the next 12 months. One of those would be the productivity improvements from AI. We have Bank of America cutting 1,500 positions today. We have Google, after a massive beat on both their Amazon Cloud as services, as well as just their regular underlying business, advertising, everything was good. Very, very solid numbers and solid guidance. But they also stated, we're really looking at how AI within their own organization, how to keep their employee footprint under control, even as they're growing as rapidly as they are. I mean, very, very good growth story today. So the improvements should begin to start hitting the economy. In addition to just normal productivity improvements, we should start to get this AI benefit, which obviously would tamp down inflation, which then might bring down the treasury interest rates. And also, it is normal for the Fed interest rates to be under the treasury, not higher than. So this has been an unusual, it happens, but this has been unusual. So it would be normal if eventually those Fed rates would get back under the treasury numbers again.
The big thing for me about interest rates, the government, all that kind of stuff, is that if the Trump wins, and then you have Elon advising not quitting the company or doing whatever, like Larry was talking about, which Warren said that wouldn't happen, and I agree wouldn't happen. Then Elon kind of said that if you just don't make it official, which I think he would operate through Vivek and Vance,
Right.
work with them. But if they can actually get towards cutting $2 trillion out of the government budget from 6.5,
Anywhere
right?
close.
Anywhere close, make progress toward that, like $500 million a year or something like that for 4 years, right? That would be so huge for the overall strength of the US economy, for the world economy to actually start getting onto the path where, um, over 10 years, you'd have $20 trillion less spent,
Right.
right? That you could suddenly get a hold of all this stuff. Then, if the market saw, wow, you're able to do it,
Mhm.
right? Then, you know, everything about the US economy, like right now, this all, doom projecting that, hey, we're going to have, go from $37 trillion up to, $60
Right.
trillion of debt, everything just out of control, just a matter of time before we have hyperinflation, blah, blah, blah. That narrative would be dead, right? So that I think is the most important thing is that what happens over the next year
Yeah.
once, you know, the inauguration happens. And then also in terms of like what does this Fed do? What does that Fed do? I think, you know, this Fed is one of the worst Feds we've had. I think Jerome Powell is a freaking idiot, right? I want to mince words about it. He is a moron because he was late on the other thing. He was, late reacting to the inflation. Oh, it's temporary, not doing anything about it, right?
Right.
And then now he's, I think, slow walking these cuts, right? So, and started late on it. I think, months late from that. So when can Trump and the new administration replace him?
Yeah.
Right? And boot those other guys out. Get someone else
I
who's
think they could pressure him to resign early, but otherwise, I think he's got another year and a half or 2 years to go.
right. So they're not going to be able to get him out, right, until that year and a half, right? Just the whole whatever's going on. Like, yeah.
They might be
So
able, they might be able to
you know,
pressure him out.
might be able to. He's will ally himself with the other side. He's a political survivor kind of thing. But yeah.
We wouldn't be able to do this in 10 minutes, Brian, but let's just kick around a couple of thoughts I've been having with regard to how Elon could get this thing started. I mean, we've had these things in management for years and years. Things like zero-based budgeting are
Mhm.
just stopping, saying not a dime more, as opposed to zero-based budgeting, where you ask them to come in with a zero-based budget, actually coming in and saying, you know what, for the next figure for the next 2 years, you don't get a dime. You don't get one dime more than you've got now. Yeah, you might have more caseload. Yeah, you might have whatever. You got to figure out how to do it with what you've got. And
Yeah.
immediately then you at least put a cap on all government spending except for Social Security and Medicare, which have to be paid out based on the actual use case.
Mhm.
Uh, so then Medicare and Social Security are both areas where you could come in and start doing some quick AI management approaches, changing the way that way that information is gathered and the way that information is then used in taking some first principles in every department. You might be able to get some of the overhead out of those areas even before you start going to work on the costs, like on the medical side in particular, which are already theoretically going to come down because of AI.
Right.
So it seems like there's ways that you could immediately have an impact that would say to the markets, no, they're serious. They're doing this for real. What do you
Mm.
think?
Yeah. I think, there's all kinds of waste and inefficiency. We know that,
Right.
DMV, post office, all those kind of things. So if they um, can come in and there's areas they can also just stop completely that are doing completely nothing for the
Right.
benefit of the
Yes.
American public,
That's
right?
my next idea. Right.
Right. So um, I presume that Vivek and other guys and Elon can look at this mess and say, here's, you know, 10 billion, 20 billion, 50 billion, like a bunch of stuff. They can just
Right.
like, you know, come in, hit certain, space launch system,
Right.
$4 billion, one test launch after 20
Right. Right.
years
Right.
using space shuttle parts,
Yes.
right? So get rid of that. It's like the entire, like one rocket engine, one old shuttle rocket engine costs $100 million, more than an entire starship,
Right.
right? So there's huge like gross things that if you had the political power behind you,
Right.
Trump,
Right. The
a Republican
Congress.
Senate, blah blah blah, that you could take stuff out that would say, here we're going to save immediately, many billions, and if you just have 50 of those, you saved 150 billion,
So,
right?
so a lot of people have said just get rid of the Fed.
Mhm.
And the Federal Reserve does have a couple of different functions, but one of those functions is data gathering.
Mhm.
And what's his face? Powell said that they had, I forget, over 300 economists.
Mhm.
One of those economists got a staff.
Right.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of money in
Right.
those 12, I think 12 regions, 12 regional offices, and they do all this data gathering, and their data is horrible. And I'm not
Oh,
saying that as somebody who's anti-government who's making a case against the Democrats that are in power now. Their data is horrible. They, the data that they come out with is useless, and then worse, they're making decisions off of that data which turn out to be bogus, as you just pointed out.
yeah.
So I'm not sure that we need the US government to be in the data collection business.
Mm,
Or if we do want that data, maybe we get that data from some outside, get Palantir or somebody to
mm.
start finding ways to get better data.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's loads of things like that.
Yeah.
And I would presume like Elon could send his 100 crack team, 100 people,
Yeah.
SpaceX, Tesla, other things, working with some people from Vivek and stuff like that, and you know, hitting easy soft targets
Yeah.
that would show we're getting immediate gains. We're hitting some areas that don't have a bunch of political, there could be some hard targets where there's a bunch of
Right.
waste, but it's too protected,
Right.
right? But if you hit a bunch of areas that are easy to pick, then I think that they can, I would expect them to be able to make huge because it's so bloated and broken. It's like, you know, the 1,000 pound overweight guy, you stop eating 50 Twinkies, hey, we're on the road, right?
At least
50 Twinkies a day, stop that.
yeah.
And then no one's really defending that 50 Twinkie thing. And it's completely, killing us. So then you can say, okay, and now we go towards, you know, some bread, some vegetables, and so on the meat. Then you can get to what is really efficient, right?
Right.
But you first hit, you know, the junk food,
Sure.
cola, the drink,
And in
stop
the
taking
meantime,
fentanyl. Yeah,
you've also got to do some exercise, and the
right,
exercise would be raising the tariffs
right.
very cleverly, very astutely, not just 100% for everybody.
Yeah,
Okay, it's 20% for you and it's 30% for you, and we're going to negotiate it. And we're going to make it so that it works. And all of a sudden, you've got this income coming in from the tariffs rather than taxing the folks.
right, right.
I think there's a real possibility of getting the deficit to be going in the right direction, at least reducing it dramatically. Therefore, you get interest amount of interest spent becomes another casualty because you're
And
spending
for those
less.
people who think that, like, oh, $6.5 trillion budget, oh, it's so efficient. Back, 30 years ago, when Bill Clinton was running stuff, how different is the government now in terms of what the services you're getting?
Yeah.
And that was down at, $2.5 trillion,
Right.
right? Fine, there's some inflation coming up, but all the stuff we're adding, like we tossed on a trillion or two, under Biden,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like, what actually got better,
Better.
right? So if you could add in a trillion like that and get
Mhm.
nothing out of it, you could take out a half trillion and things will not be impacted,
No,
right? In terms of like
just like Twitter.
in negative things, yeah. So
Just like
it should be easy to do it, and it shouldn't be that if you're hitting it across the board, you can do it in a way where the um, the various government departments and agencies cannot fight you effectively. Like the plan that is the plan that has to be done. Warren Redlick, who Tesla bull, who also used to run in government. He ran for
and for
New York whatever position. That he was saying that you have to target each small group one at a time
right.
so that they can't all collectively. But I think an initial thing where you hit a bunch, but each without collectively, able to come up, oh, it's 1 million employees and they all fight and resist. You can do it in a way where there's not that many employees, where it's like, like the 42 billion dollars that are going to that rural,
Yeah.
high bandwidth thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
spent it, and then they have what, $8 billion for the superchargers, and they install like seven, right? So it's like $60 billion, just like
Boom.
utterly just utter waste, right?
Right.
So there's a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Vivek has also said that, for instance, if you want to get rid of the Department of Education, And basically you're saying, well, the schools need that money. Well, okay, they still get the money. They just get it on a per capita basis or whatever.
Mhm.
And maybe you slow that down over time and tell them they got to take it over. But the people that are in the Department of Education are a massive amount of people that are probably doing harm to the schools rather than good.
Mhm.
And so you can get rid of those folks, and there's also, what do you call it, attrition and or you pay off contracts.
Mhm.
In some of the other departments, you just pay, just like corporations do. You just
Yeah.
pay people off to
One of the things for education, you know, I'm from Canada originally, right?
yeah,
So Canada education, if you look at the global rankings,
yeah,
the Canadian universities are not that much below, in some, in the top 25, there's a Canadian university mixed in with some US universities, right?
right.
So, but Canadian education is like 4 times cheaper,
Mhm.
right? And same thing, there's some US universities like, Purdue that are also, high quality education, but lower cost.
Right.
One of the things is, you know, why do we only have, say, 1,000 students a year going to Harvard, right?
Right.
The University of Toronto can admit 80,000 total, like 30,000 per year, 20,000 per year,
Yeah.
right? You have a bunch of campuses. It's kind of like each one of the mini California university system where you have like many, many campuses,
Right.
right? So there's well, we can't have professors teaching that many large classes.
Yes, you can.
Professors are not teaching the friggin' classes, right?
Anyway.
It's going, the first year, first, second year things, they're going to assistant professors, they're going to lecturers. It's not them. So there's no reason you cannot scale up
Yes.
and say, I'm gonna have more people, and then you have more supply, same demand, then
Right.
the cost of it goes down,
Right.
right? Because there's no reason to pay 100,000 because we can do a high quality um, education, especially because a lot of these education things you can do via, the electronic learning, right? So all that cost is completely unnecessary. It doesn't give you any more quality, and you can just say everyone can, instead of saying, well, I must have you pay $50,000 per year, and now I have to have all the debt for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
$300,000. Like everywhere else, Canada, Europe, they can give free university education. You can go from K to 12. You can just go further
Keep on
up and
going.
say all the next 4 years and say, hey, we cover that kind of too in a system that is either completely free as well
Right.
or at 10,000 per year or less.
Well, that's
Like,
my son. I mean, my son only graduated 2 years ago. I think that's right. Maybe it's three from Cal
mm,
Poly SLO, which is a
mm,
absolutely fabulous college. It's one of the highest rated colleges in the country in terms of return on investment.
mm,
His tuition was only $10,000 a year, and
mm.
you could get what do you call it? Scholarships and stuff, FAFSA and all that. So you can get that, off of that $10,000 a year.
So you've been telling me I'm a smart guy,
You
right?
are, you
My
are.
undergraduate was University of Regina, a Canadian university above North Dakota,
Okay.
right? My tuition there was $400 $405 every semester, right? So my total tuition,
Yeah.
all 4 years,
Yeah.
was like $5,000,
Right.
right? My books cost more than
And
my
the
tuition.
tuition. That's
So
what.
I did put myself through, undergraduate university. My first summer before starting university was McDonald's. I did work at McDonald's, just like maybe Kamala did. And then I went and got twice minimum wage by being a lifeguard.
There
So my
you
life,
go.
and I also marked some stuff. So these part-time jobs, I had money at the end, right? Every year I had money to spend. I could drive
Yeah.
my car, do all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then the actual tuition was nothing. And my education was fine.
Yeah.
I learned everything I needed to learn to have regular jobs and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
right? So to say that, yes, I did, was as good as the MIT University? No. Was it as, at some of the other universities? No. But you still can learn everything you need to know,
Sure.
right? So, only, 0.01% are going to the elite universities anyway,
Right.
right? So for the vast majority, that 98%, 95%, right? A perfectly good education, super cheap, no reason to go in debt, no reason to do whatever, because when you spent that $200,000, from blah 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 university, you're getting nothing out of it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, we've gone very far afield tonight.
Yes.
I'm sure the audience appreciated every minute of it, though. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened with the markets today and what we're looking at coming up. We had the Dow down 154, NASDAQ up 145. S&P, so that means the NASDAQ hit an all-time high. The S&P was up 940. Not sure about all-time high there. Dow obviously down, but I think it was an all-time high yesterday. Tesla down $2.99. And the Mag 7 were all up except for Tesla. And then Tesla in the after hours up 26 whole pennies. So that was what happened today. I had several people ask me, why do they think that Tesla went down today? It could have been Cathie Wood selling. It could have been the three people that put in three insiders that wanted more to sell some stock. It could have been a little bit of just folks had a nice run up,
Profit taking,
a little profit taking. There was no real news. There was nothing really in the fundamentals that would have suggested. In fact, if anything, the news was positive. So it shouldn't have been down based on fundamentals. All right, going to the bonds. We've been talking about the bonds. Let's see what they're doing in the after hours. If I can get to the bond page here. We have got the 10-year finally coming down a little bit, under 4.25, but only by 0.2 of a basis point. So we're at 4.248, which is down 2.6 basis points in the pre-market. The 2-year also down 1.9 basis points at 4.10, and we have got the 3-month up a little bit at 1.3. So after bringing that inversion way down, spreading it out just a little bit again. And the 2-month also up 2.5 basis points. So anyway, that is where we are in the bonds. Any thoughts on the bonds?
Nope. No idea.
All right. We'll move on to the oil. So oil has bounced back a tad, but we're still sitting at $67.41 for Texas Intermediate. By the way, saying West Texas Intermediate, do you know why I say it every day, like twice? Because it's fun to say. It's kind of a fun phrase, West Texas Intermediate. So we got Brent about $4 higher. Basically, nothing happening in oil except what we've already been talking about, which is there's lots and lots of it and lots of potential more of it. And if Trump wins, it's going to be drill, baby, drill. So we could be looking at oil with a 50-50 handle if Trump wins. I'm sorry, when Trump wins. Anyway.
I think if he, within a year and a half, with the substantially more drilling, because it's the 2 million barrels per day marginal thing. So if you up 2 million, your supply, you drive the price down to like $20.
Right.
If you're below 2 million barrels, then you drive the price up to like 140.
Okay.
So just that swing up and down, 4 million barrels total is the whole thing. So if you add in 1 million barrels per day, the US is like, I don't know, 13 million barrels per day. If you add 1 or 2 million barrels per day, you drive that price down to $20, right? So that is something within the US control, that the fracking guys, the US oil producers can be that marginal producer that drives prices way down, which is totally within the US's control. So the US not doing it is just stupidity. And that's why Trump says, hey, I have within my power as president the means to drive oil prices, which also takes down natural gas prices and energy prices way down.
Right.
He can control energy prices.
Now, so I don't know this because I haven't done the study, but Nick, who has background in the oil, literally in the oil fields, but has also studied it very deeply, says that you get much under $50 a barrel, and you're going to have people shutting down oil wells because you just can't make money. So, first it'll be the deep water, and then it'll be, some of the fracking, which is maybe more expensive. So $50, he says, is kind of the break even. So getting it down in the $50 range, which might mean, 45 to 55, is probably the realistic range. Now, Saudi Arabia has also been known, though, to come in and also try to capture market share in a situation like that. So they might come in and add a million barrels a day, even if the US starts to back off, and they could drive it down to that $20.
Well, the thing is, if the U.S. Marginal producer, if their cost is down around 20, $30,
Yeah,
right? Which, before the frackers had higher costs, but now they've gotten down lower with technology. So then they can't be bullied as much by Saudi Arabia with their $10 cost,
right,
right? And the thing is, if Saudi's good at $40 and the US guys are good at $40 with a $30 cost, then someone else loses market share,
right,
right? And the other thing is that the US could say, I can overproduce a million barrels, and then I can sanction Iran, take
right,
out their 2 million barrels per day,
right,
and
right,
say, everyone gets their oil, everyone gets that $50, but except Iran,
right.
right? So then you can geopolitically say, nothing for you, soup for me and everyone else, nothing for you,
Yes,
until you start behaving,
right,
right?
right,
So it gives you the whole, you're not like Biden is freaking begging Venezuela and Iran for freaking oil. What the hell is that about, right? So screw them. We take them out, we take their stuff, and then jobs for us, a million extra oil jobs for us. We produce another 3 million barrels per day at the price that's good, like Nick was saying,
yep.
and then we take out those other guys.
Mhm. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got gold up another 850 in the pre-market. We are now at 27.89 all-time high.
Mhm.
Silver at 34.64, very close to an all-time high, except for what we had this one situation a few years ago that popped it to 38 for a minute. And copper up a little bit, only 0.17%. I mean, it's pretty good for pre-market. But all three of those doing quite well, actually, right now. Bitcoin is on the verge of all-time high. It has just jumped up like crazy. People are speculating that, again, that's because they believe Trump's going to win. And Trump has said he's going to even buy some Bitcoin as a reserve currency. Um,
Something else that's going to help Bitcoin
hmm,
is that the data centers will kick out the Bitcoin miners, a lot of them. So there'll be
oh,
less Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin mining means less new Bitcoin. Why
right,
will they do that? Because the AI data centers will pay more.
right,
So they will want to get more AI data centers,
right.
less Bitcoin mining, less new supply, Bitcoin prices go up.
Wow, that's an interesting one. Thank you for that. For those
You're
of
more
you who
welcome.
are interested in a possible investment, that is not investment advice. The equities for tomorrow morning, we've got the Dow up 68 or 0.16. We've got the S&P up 18 or 0.31, and the NASDAQ up another 68.75 or 0.33. So looking like we're going to have a good day in the market tomorrow. What do you think? Yeah, maybe.
Day to day tough to call because just short squeezes, this or that manipulation, don't know.
And we definitely have something tomorrow. It's either PCE or we have ADP, one of the two. And I think we also have GDP. I think
Mhm.
GDP tomorrow.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
That's a
Oh,
fake number.
take a number. Yeah. Yeah, especially in this
Okay.
election season. All right. So that's
Yeah.
all we got for you tonight. By the way, be sure and go. The other Brian was with me today, and we talked about my prediction for next year earlier. So you can go, I'll put the card right there. Brian Wang, thank you as always for
Thank you.
joining us. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.